So, on a weekend in which AEW held its Full Gear pay-per-view and the Jets lost in honestly comical fashion in a way that only the Jets can lose. Uh, it's been a wild couple days. It is officially Thanksgiving as we're recording right now. Welcome everyone to Pucks and Brews. I am your host, as always, Michael Sparacino, joined once again by Liam, the Chillmaster Gotimer. I will
Love it.
never get tired of that nickname that Brendan gave you. And yeah, by the time this episode comes out, it's going to be Black Friday. But Liam, happy Thanksgiving. How you
Happy
doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Shade. Same to you. It's great to be back on Pucks and Brews and just ready to talk some hockey, man.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
It certainly has. And just real quick, I mean, the Jets, I mean, just what an absolute joke. I mean, Zach Wilson, what an absolute joke. I know it's a hockey podcast, but I could not be more thankful that Mike White is starting on Sunday. And wrestling certainly has been very good to us too over the last couple weeks. So right on with everything you said.
Yeah, I'm so glad I was able to attend the show on Saturday night. It was very fun. And I somehow have a habit of making friends, which I'll save that. I have a story which I will save until the very end of the podcast. You will enjoy this.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So just one last thing about the freaking Jets game. Like that loss just me, I was watching it with my dad. As soon as they scored, the Patriots scored with 5 seconds left, it just sucked the life out of both of us for the rest of the day. It's just like only the Jets.
Only the Jets for sure. And you know what? Once they broke a couple tackles on that punt return, you just knew he was off to the races, and football game was over. So I was watching on my phone. I turned it off real quick. Short memory.
Yeah, but what a terrible Sunday it was after such a great Saturday night. And anyway, so I guess let's just hop in to the most recent tidbit of news with the Rangers, and then we'll come back around to them later for different reasons. Ryan Reaves traded to the Minnesota Wild for a 2025 fifth round pick. They initially traded a third round pick to get him in, I forgot to double check the year of that draft pick, but I'm pretty sure it was a 2023 or was it 2022?
I would have said 2023. That's what I thought it was.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, this is what I get for not double checking, but I'm checking that right now. We traded him to the Wild. So, I mean, initial thoughts. I mean,
it's a 2022 third round pick in 2022. So that pick.
2020. Okay, so we trade him for a 20. No, we trade a 2022 third round pick for him, and then we trade him for a 2025 fifth. So obviously, let's not sugarcoat it. We lost value there, and we're not going to know what this pick is for probably, I mean, fifth round pick at least until probably 2029. But he was basically scratched almost the entire month and played one game. Obviously, didn't have a role on the team with his coaching staff. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Molly Walker does an outstanding job covering the Rangers, and she came out and said that Reeves' agent asked for a trade once they landed in LA. So I'm not entirely surprised. Like you said, I mean, he was scratched the entire month. He just wasn't getting the playing time. Obviously, the Rangers wanted to go in a different direction in their bottom six. They don't want to have the slow-footed grinder type guys. They want to get younger players who play with speed, like Julian Gauthier, who's really come out and had a good last couple of weeks. So I think that just combined with Reeves kind of just wearing his time out in New York, led to this trade. Yes, when you look back at it, you lose value, of course, trading a third round pick for Reeves and then receiving a fifth round pick back a couple of years later. But Shades, you could say that the Rangers garnered a lot of valuable playoff experience during last year's run. And I'm not entirely sure, how far the Rangers really get without Reeves and his impact. And I'm not talking on the ice because, of course, you look at all the advanced metrics and stuff like that. He provides zero value outside of fighting. But in that locker room, he really helped bring a team that didn't have a captain at the time last year together. And I think those attributes helped lead this team to the Eastern Conference Final. So yes, you lose value, but in my opinion, over those 2 years, the Rangers gained value. Ryan Reaves filled the need over the last 2 years to bring that physicality, bring the locker room together, and he did all those things.
Yeah, I find it kind of funny how you said they're thinking about going in a different direction. Meanwhile, when Drury traded for him initially, he initially also gave him a 1 year extension, which at the time was questionable.
And that's kind of what screwed our cap situation. And, let me just also say that this gives the Rangers a little bit of room to maneuver come the trade deadline because Shades, I mean, we'll
They
circle.
need to make a move.
They need a top six winger. That's just it. They need a
Uh,
different maker. Panarin is just not where he should be at for the type of player that he is and the talent that he has, and his line mates directly attribute to that. So we'll circle back to it, but I think it's all connected.
yeah, they need, I mean, I think they need to make multiple trades, but that's another story for a couple months from now. So let's move on to something that's way bigger. The New Jersey Devils just had their 13-game win streak snapped last night. Remember, we're recording on Thanksgiving. So I saw the highlights. I saw the disallowed goals. The first and third one, those two should not have been called off. I have seen where goalies have been barreled over and those goals have stood. But the fact that all three, now the second one, don't get me wrong, second one should have been called off. They made the right call on that one. First and third one, though, I mean, Murray gets his skate tapped on the first one, and there is literally nothing preventing him from making that save. Still, goal still gets disallowed, gets called back. And the ref faked the Devils and the Devils fans out big time, which made it even more not right. But you can't make that stuff up. I'm actually kind of glad that happened. Not for Devils fans, just because it's a funny moment in general. And then the third one with the kick. I mean, he literally did not kick it toward the open net. He was literally kicking it in front of the net, but it clearly was not going to go in. Something touched it. I mean, me personally, I would have counted that goal. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the third one I kind of disagree with, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it is a distinct kicking motion. Now, I agree with you in the fact that maybe intentionally he was not trying to kick it directly into the net. But how are you, as the referees or the situation room in Toronto, going to determine intent? If you are that close to the crease and have an opportunity to maneuver the puck with your skate, I don't think he's trying to do anything else but score. I mean, and I think that's kind of where the situation room came from. But I think there's definitely a fine line that needs to be determined, both with the kicking motion reviews and goalie interference as well. But on the other two, I certainly agree with you. The second one, I think they made the right call. But on the first one, I thought that was a little bit of an iffy decision, in my opinion. And look, yes, the referee did fake them out, right? And I didn't think that helped the fans at the Prudential Center. But let me just get this out of the way. That can't happen at a professional hockey game, okay? It happened in two different stints after the third goal was disallowed and after the game was over, after the Maple Leafs had won. The fans were still throwing debris at the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, it's just unacceptable. And, me and you are from the tri-state area, Shades, and it's not a good look. It's just not a good look on an area that doesn't have a lot of leeway with people around the NHL. People look down upon us, the Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York area, and this is why. And it takes away from our game. And we're here for the love of it. Whether you get 3 disallowed goals, you get 3 goals based off reviews. That's just a game of hockey. That's just my opinion. I mean, it was really, really embarrassing for the New Jersey Devils and the state of New Jersey last night, truly. And it's really a shame because they had won 13 games. The franchise is rejuvenated. There's finally fans coming to the Prudential Center again. I mean, they're just really excited. And it was kind of just ruined with 1 loss, 3 disallowed goals, and multiple beer cans thrown onto the ice. What do you think? I mean, are you with me?
Oh no, we're both 100% in agreement on the first one because that's just an abysmal call, an atrocious call. Let's call a spade on that one. Third one, I mean, we're still a little bit of a disagreement because I still remember, oh God, I'm still having PTSD back to the Ottawa series where, yeah, it's just like it gets kicked toward the net and then goes off like pinball, 17 things and goes in.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I'll be honest with you, at the time, like I understood why, because it did hit like 15 people before it went into the net. So like you can't get too mad on that. But I don't know. I just have a big thing of like if you're kicking it and it's not going directly in and the other team knocks it in, I in my opinion, that should count. That's just
And Yeah, and I think that's where, people need to get together and they need to discuss this. And, this is what it is and this is what it isn't, because all this in between BS, this is why we're having so many problems. And it doesn't happen often. But last night was one of the few occasions where video review and, the inability to make a line between what it is and what it isn't for both goalie interference and kicking the puck into the net, it determined the outcome of that game.
yes,
And
it did.
unfortunately, it happened to be a very, very big game where the New Jersey Devils were creeping closer and closer until history, the NHL record of 17 wins by the 92-93 Penguins. So, it's just bad timing. And and it really determined the outcome of that game, because I think if everything was called right, Shades, I wouldn't be surprised if the New Jersey Devils are winners right now. So that's just where we're at.
Yeah, the game should have at least gone into overtime. But I mean, at this point, it's kind of a moot point because the win streak is over and done with. And I did want to see them chase. Is it 17 or 18?
I believe it's 17. I can fact check that, but I was watching a hockey guy video yesterday. That's why I was able to pull the 17 from the 92-93 Penguins. But I can
Yeah, I enjoy that guy's videos. He puts out
17.
some very solid content.
Cannon is probably one of the, or if not the smartest hockey people in the community. He's fantastic. And
Yeah,
it
that's
was
not in the actual industry.
Yes, that's not in the actual industry. He started that from the bottom, and I've watched his channel grow and grow and grow, and now he's the number one content creator. Not affiliated with a major network in hockey. That's incredible.
If
That's
only,
the inspiration, right, Shades?
if only that was us right now.
It could be. You never know. Just
Hey,
gotta get wide eyes.
hey,
That's
maybe. And I mean, I have the time right now. I'm just too friggin' lazy.
that's the thing with Shannon. He watches every single game. He writes it on
Yes.
the whiteboard. The guy absolutely grinds, and he gets the benefits for sure.
Yeah, I don't have an ESPN Plus account, so I legitimately can't watch all the games.
There you go.
Yeah, and here, this is a side tangent, but for the love of God, NHL Network is if there's literally one game on, it's like show the live coverage at like 12:30 in the morning for the love of God. I don't need to see highlight. I want to see the one game that's actually on. Anyway, okay, side rant over. So obviously we just touched upon the Devils and how their losing streak came to a crashing halt. But I want to talk about another team. The Bruins had a 7-game win streak as well. That also was recently ended. And we've been on the opposite side of the spectrum with losing streaks as well. I mean, the Senators lost like 7 or 8 in a row. There was another team that lost like 6 the St. Louis Blues. They went on an extended losing streak a couple weeks back.
And now they're on a 6-game winning streak right now.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you never know with professional sports, like especially football playoffs, but that's a whole different story. But I mean, dear Lord, I mean, look at the Senators are literally last in the league right now. Oh, no, I lied. Second to last. But look at Vancouver. They lost like 6 in a row or 7 in a row to start the season. Anaheim, dear Lord, I was ready to punch somebody last night. Anaheim literally went, what was it, 20 games? 19 games without a regulation win. And we finally give it to them. So there's been just, there's been a lot of streaks. Seattle's been on fire lately too. Vegas is also 16-4-1. I'm pretty sure they had a 6 or 7 game win streak at one point. I mean, we're in bizarro world.
We really are. And there's a lot of teams underachieving around the NHL. Just when you really just look at it, I mean, the Flyers have come back down to earth. The Penguins haven't been very good. They have 10 wins in 20 games. You have the Capitals, who are seventh in the Metropolitan Division. The Blue Jackets have been horrible. Everyone expected the Senators to make the playoffs. They're last in the Atlantic. The Sabres are having a really tough time of it. The Canadians are barely above water. The Panthers are just 2 games over 500. If you look at the Western Conference, I mean, Predators are not good. The Wild are not good. The Blues had a 7 game losing streak. I mean, the Canucks, the Sharks, the Ducks, the Oilers, the Flames are all struggling to the point where the Kraken are the second best team in the Pacific. I mean, things really got to shake out the way they're going to be at the end of the year. And Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, is usually the timeline for that. I don't know. I mean, the NHL looks like a mid-off right now, if you ask me, outside of a few outstanding teams. I mean, just nobody is taking, the brass ring, right? The wrestling term for you. Nobody is taking that right now. And I'm going to be very interested to see who it is. Because I don't think the Kraken are the second best team in the Pacific. I don't know about you.
No.
But
Although I'll give them credit though, they have looked better than I thought they would this season,
yeah.
and that's even with the Shane Wright situation going on.
And good for Shane Wright. He goes down to Coachella Valley, right? On a conditioning loan. And he
Yeah, you want to just transition into that at this point?
yeah, we can.
So, yeah. So for those who haven't heard, Shane Wright was basically played. I think it was the first 7 games of the season for the Kraken. Got scratched for 2 weeks to be eligible to be loaned to the AHL for a conditioning stint. And the only other option here was to send him back down to junior for the rest of the season, which let's face it, that was not the best move for his development. This probably is the best move right now. And I was I was listening to a clip from Steve Dangle's podcast and how they were saying how this is such a flawed agreement between the NHL and the WHL, which I agree because I mean Shane Wright, he had like 1.5 points per game in the WHL. He's too good for that league. I need to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is too good for the WHL. But with that said, I do actually think he is in need of, some more development. I don't think he's an NHL player at this point, and it's going to be a very interesting decision to see, what the Kraken decide to do. Right, at the end of that 7 day conditioning loan, because he goes down to Coachella Valley, he plays in his first game, he scores a beautiful breakaway goal. So what are you going to do now, right? Are you going to send him back down to the WHL? Is he going to go back to juniors, or is he going to stay with the NHL club? Are you going to burn a year off his ELC? For me, if I'm the Kraken, I don't do that. I only burn a year off his ELC if he's very close to becoming an NHL player. And 1 game in Coachella Valley and 1 goal doesn't tell me that he's close. Just in my opinion. I don't think he should be back in juniors either. But I think the Kraken are between a rock and a hard place with how they handle the development of this player. So, I mean, good for him for right now. I hope he lights it up in that 7 day conditioning stint. But past that, I'm not really sure what the future holds, at least this season for Shane Wright.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out. And actually, for those of you who have been actually keeping up with the podcast for a long time, back when I had you, Ryan, and Justin on
Right.
this, so I was on Chirp and Chat with them this past Monday, and I went through all of the number 4 drafted players dating back to Cale Makar. And here's what you guys need to know. I actually did research. Cale Makar did not play regular season games the first 2 seasons after being drafted, but made his debut in the 2019 playoffs, which in effect burned an entry level year off his contract. 2018, it was well, I'm already blanking on this is bad. 28, who the hell was drafted? I usually know this stuff right off the top of my head. I don't know why I'm blanking so bad.
Is that that was the year after Heischer and Patrick, right?
Yes. Okay. So it was
Um,
Brady Tkachuk who played right away for the Senators. 2019, it was. Can my dude, I have a
oh,
group chat going off right now that is just absolutely annoying the hell out of me.
Byram went fourth in 2019.
Yes, he did not play right away, but he needed some development time. But he is currently on the Avalanche roster, and well, let's face it, he looks like a budding star on a still very good Avalanche team. 2020. Oops, I accidentally looked up 2022. I'll bring up 2022.
2020 was Lucas Raymond.
2020 was Lucas Raymond, who did he
In the NHL. He played in the NHL at least last year.
okay, yeah, I'll double check his thing. And then 2021, it was I should have kept all these tabs open.
12 points in 19 games for Lucas Raymond.
You want to know who's actually doing pretty good this year for Detroit? Dominic Kubalik.
Kubalik got
It was Luke Hughes in 2021, who still has yet to sign his entry level deal, number 4. And lastly, to round this off, 2020, it was no, not I hate Google. Like, I love and hate Google. 2020, it was no, not Jake Sanderson. No, fucking hell. You're right. It was Lucas Raymond. I'm sorry. It's too. I got barely any sleep, and I'm just fucking. Okay. So 2017, Cale Makar. 2018, Brady Tkachuk played right away. 2019, Lucas Raymond. He did not play right away. He spent one season in development. 2021, it was Luke Hughes, who has yet to sign his entry level deal. And 2022, obviously, is Shane Wright. So my take on this, it depends on the draft class and how actually ready a player is. And this can literally vary from year to year. I mean, you have the current reigning Norris winner, drafted 4th overall, who literally did not play in the NHL for 2 whole regular seasons. So it's literally, like I said also, and I've said this many times before, the draft is an educated crapshoot, and they're all lottery tickets.
many of them. Yes, I would agree with you. Many of them are lottery tickets indeed. And, I think there is a precedent with number 4 overall picks for sure. And I think it comes down to team need, right? I think the Seattle Kraken are a surprise, I guess you could say contender. I mean, they're second best in the Pacific Division. How long that lasts, I mean, we'll see. But does Shane Wright fit into their current plans to elevate them as a playoff team? No, not really. I mean, sticking a number 4 overall pick who has no NHL experience on the 4th line as you're making a playoff push is not beneficial for the team nor the player. And I think that there's no shame in going back for development. I mean, if you saw Cale Makar, I mean, he did the same thing, right, back in college. So, if Shane Wright goes back to the WHL, is he a little bit too good for that league? I guess you could say so, but it's not going to stunt his development by any means. And let's also remember, the reason why Shane Wright fell in the draft was because in juniors, he didn't really have all that impressive of a season, last year. So I'd be very interested to see how he is now that he's played, in the AHL, in the NHL, how he's able to transition. Because if he goes back to the WHL and he dominates, and that's great for the Seattle Kraken. And you bring him back, then you maybe consider burning off a year of his ELC. But if he doesn't live up to that, then there's more development. So I think only time will tell. I think the 7-game conditioning loan will say a lot. But I think at the end of the day, if I had to make a prediction on it, I think that Seattle would end up sending him back to juniors instead of burning off a year of his ELC.
Interesting. I also heard something about Team Canada has games coming up after his conditioning stint. So I would assume that they're going to send him to Team Canada.
I would agree with that too. Yeah.
All right. And there's another young player in sort of a similar situation, but also extremely different. And that's Nick Robertson with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is just, I don't know what he is. I mean, he's proven that he's not a full-time NHLer, but at the same time, like, sending him down, he's kind of proved that he's above the AHL. So he's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. What are your thoughts on Nick Robertson?
Yeah, he's like that. He's like that in between a AHL player and an NHL player. You know, he's not good enough for the NHL, but he's too good for the AHL, right? And he is the brother of Jason Robertson, correct?
Yes.
So if you're in a family with somebody that good, you know, there's obviously some hockey talent there, right? And you know, this wouldn't be the first time that the Toronto Maple Leafs organization has failed at developing their young players. I mean, we've seen it throughout the league. You know, many players that have left Toronto and have had success in other places, and I think Nick Robertson is going to end up being one of them. Yeah, having him down with the Marlies doesn't do anything for him, doesn't do anything for the Maple Leafs. And when you look at this Leafs team, they could definitely use some life, you know, in their bottom six. And, you know, even if he's not producing, you know, I don't really think that Nick Robertson would be any worse than what they've had. And if you look at some of their transactions over the last couple of days, Wayne Simmons was waived by the Maple Leafs, you know, so that, you know, opens up a spot. And if you're not opening up a spot by, you know, waiving a veteran for a young player, then I'm not exactly sure what Kyle Dubas is doing. So that's just where I'm at with that. I hope he gets his opportunity. And hey, if he gets traded and that allows another team to jump on him, I would love that, especially as a Rangers fan. I mean, I'd love to have Nick Robertson, wouldn't you?
Honestly, with the current configuration of this team, yes, I would love to have Nick Robertson. Actually, Jesus.
And 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in 11 games with an 11% shooting percentage. I mean,
That's not awful.
and he's got a +1. You know, I know plus minus, you know, is an overused stat, and I understand that, but that's still pretty decent. You know, he's got 7 points in 27 games, but 5 of those 7 points have come in his last 11. So, you know, maybe things are trending upward.
I mean, he's not a bad player. It's just,
He's only
uh,
21 years old.
yeah, I
It's
mean, it's not
years
over.
Yeah, that fans and organizations, you know, on the same level, just give up on players in their early 20s. I mean, come on. I mean, if Capo Caco is 25 or 26, or if Nick Robertson is 25, 26, and he's still not, you know, a full-time NHL player, fine, label him a bust. But the guy's in his early 20s. Just give him some time. I cannot tell you how many Rangers it has taken them years to develop. Look how long it took Pavel Buchnevich to develop. You want to talk about a
Mm.
similar player to Capo Caco? How many years were we saying, oh my gosh, he's a third round pick. Let's just give up on this guy. He's never going to reach his full potential. Now he's a top six forward. How many times were we saying that about JT Miller, sending him back to the AHL? He scored almost 100 points last year with the Vancouver Canucks. So just the fact that fans just have so much impatience when it comes to young players really bothers me, whether it's on the Rangers side or the Maple Leaf side. You know, Nick Robertson, Capo Caco, guys on that level, they're not busts. Give them time. Call me in 3 years and let me see where they're at. But for right now, just let them develop. And Caco's looked really good, by the way, over the last couple of games, might I add. So, you know, just bothers me. Just a little bit of a tidbit I want to put in there.
Yeah, honestly, I would love to make this a whole thing about talking smack about the Maple Leafs, but I have a feeling we're going to have a much better time to do so later in the season. All right, and on to our last hockey related topic of the episode. I mean, we are Rangers fans after all, and we literally haven't, well, I mean, I haven't taken the initiative to record a podcast since the start of the season because I've just been a lazy piece of shit. So, obviously, we are,
Don't degrade yourself like that, Shades. Come on.
eh, I enjoy, only on the podcast. I do it for entertainment purposes. So, we're 21 games in, and the Rangers are 10-7-4. And I would say if there would be one word to describe this team, it is inconsistent. And I'm getting a lot of the same vibes from last year. Not exactly liking that. I'm gonna let you take the floor for a couple.
Yeah, inconsistent would have been my word too, but I'm gonna say underwhelming, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, coming off of a Eastern Conference final appearance, a series in which they led 2-0, and could have easily led 3-0, and could have been a Stanley Cup finalist. It probably wouldn't have beaten the Colorado Avalanche. But my point is high expectations coming into the next season. And They just have not been able to find any stretch of consistency. I mean, Ryan Strome and Andrew Kopp, two players, left the organization in unrestricted free agency. You replaced them with Vincent Trocheck, a move that you and I were very happy about at the time. Of course, Trocheck, a guy who, is a little bit of a pest, like a Brad Marchand type of player, adds a little bit more size, down the middle, of course, can win faceoffs, helps in a lot of different areas. But I don't think that the Rangers really thought through the what they would be missing without Strome, without Kopp, without Vetrano, because all three of those players added such an element to this roster that complemented them so well, that helped them reach the Eastern Conference Final. And while Strome missed his fair share of open nets, and while Kopp is probably overpaid, and while Vetrano probably scored a lot because he was on a first line alongside Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, those things can be true. But what can also be true is that their absence is what is directly attributing to the Rangers having an underwhelming and subsequently inconsistent start to the season. So that's just where I'm at with them. Obviously, Trocheck has not been able to develop any chemistry with Artemi Panarin. There needs to be another winger on that side. I don't think it's lost on either of us that there needs to be another top four defenseman acquired by this team. And I'm not talking somebody that's going to make a marginal difference. I'm talking about a Jacob Chikrin. That's what they need. They need somebody who's going to be a difference maker and who can bottle up the mistakes by their young players, like your Zach Jones, like your Braden Schneider, like your Keandre Millers, who have taken a severe step back from last year. Just talking about Miller in that regard, maybe Jones a little bit as well. I thought Schneider's been fantastic. Igor has taken a little bit of a step back. You're getting absolutely nothing out of your backup goaltending spot. I mean, Yaroslav Halak is 0-5-1. He gave up a couple soft goals yesterday, and of course, he wasn't necessarily the reason why the Rangers lost to Anaheim. But maybe if he stops a couple of those, at least forces it into overtime, and then it becomes a skill game. And that's a matchup that you'd be able to win against the Ducks. Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad outside of the power play have been a little bit quiet as well. Mika has not been scoring 5-on-5. Kreider might have similar numbers to where he was at this point last year, but I think you and I can agree he's just not making that same impact. Vitaly Kravtsov can't stay on the ice. Alexei Lafreniere and Capo Kakko are not consistent enough. Philip Hedl has looked great. The fourth line has been made by committee. Ryan Reaves has been traded. Gerard Galant's made some questionable lineup decisions. There's just a lot going on with this team, and I could go on and on, but they need to figure it out. And I think it starts with the trade deadline, getting a legit top four D-man in here and getting somebody to play alongside Artemi Panarin and Vincent Trocheck. A difference maker is what the Rangers need, because if they don't do it, they'll get bounced in the first round, because this team, as currently constructed, is not even remotely close to the team that lost to Tampa in Game 6.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm actually really glad you brought up Kopp, Strome, and Vetrano. I mean, the only reason, let's not get lost on the fact of the Tyler Mott acquisition last year. I thought that was huge for them too. The only reason they were able to get all of those guys is because they had cap space last year. We're kind of constrained at this year, which kind of sucks. But let's face it, Reaves was basically a cap dump for somebody that you weren't going to play anymore. So at least they got a 5th-round pick for him. That's probably what they should have traded for him, but different conversation. I digress. But yeah, like you said, it's just like Kravtsov. Dude, Kravtsov has the worst fucking luck in the world. I swear to God. The guy looked good. Like, the guy looked legitimately good for however old he was at the time. Like a 19, 20-year-old player at the end of the season before Buchnevich got traded. He looked good. He legitimately looked like the 3rd best wing on the team at the tail end of that season. They trade Buchnevich, and then Kravtsov gets sent down, and that is the moment that that messed with him. Like, that legitimately messed with him. Because all right, I won't go too far on this tangent, but as soon as Letteri made the team over Anderson that one year, I literally could not give a flying fuck about watching preseason hockey, because that just proved to me, like, it really, preseason hockey does not matter in the slightest. There are literally 2 to 3 roster spots maybe up for grabs. It's not the NFL where most of the roster excuse me, not most of the roster, but there's a legitimate handful of roster spots to be had in training camp and in preseason. That's not the case with the NHL. There's literally, depending on the team, if you're a cup worthy team, there's maybe one spot to be had. But I just think that messed with him. Jimmy Vesey is playing on the top line with Barclay Goodrow playing on the second line. Shoot me.
Shades, I have no issue, to be honest with you, with Jimmy Vesey on the first line. Goudreau on the second line, we can have a conversation about that. But Vesey on the first line, look, last time Jimmy Vesey was a Ranger, the one player that, he played with consistently was Chris Kreider. Because the Rangers were going through those same issues, right? Failing to have a top line player at the time. So VC has a little bit of chemistry with Kreider. And who else are you going to put in that spot, to be honest with you? You're going to put Sammy Blais, who has bricks in his skates, on the first line. Please don't do that. You're going to put Kravtsov on the first line. That's not going to work either. So I just think by process of elimination, I think VC's the best choice. And Barclay Goudreau, he's not a winger. He scored last night, playing alongside Trocheck and Panarin. But again, this could not spell out any more obvious that there needs to be a new right wing on that second line. And his name is Patrick Kane. And I've been saying it for months, and you need him. You just do if you want to make any sort of an impact in the postseason. But I'll continue to sing that song, throughout the entirety of the season. But you can't tell me by looking at VC and Goudreau on the top two lines that they don't need a top six forward, Shades. Come on.
No, they do need a top six forward.
Kane or not, they need somebody. They just need somebody. I'd take Vetrano at this point.
Honestly, I would like him back. He looked good for us last year.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to bring up something that is going to be a little bit alarming. And I don't know if you know this, but I did this in my head the other day, and I should not have thought about this to begin with because I was literally pissed off afterwards. So I look at from the moment Galant took over as coach to now compared to Quinn's last year.
Okay.
And this is what I came up with. Kreider in general just looked better from a shift to shift basis, even though he wasn't scoring as much. Mika was on that insane goal scoring streak. That was the hottest he's ever been as a player. He hasn't come close to replicating that since the COVID shutdown. AKA Galant taking over as coach. That all kind of blends in together. We haven't been able to find a first line right wing since we traded Buchnevich. Panarin looked phenomenal that first season under Quinn. In my opinion, he hasn't looked the same since. Well, second line center, Trocheck's 21 games in, he gets half of a pass. 2-6, we also haven't been able to figure out second line right wing, which again, we need to make a freaking move, for the love of God. Third line has improved. That is the one area of the team where I will legitimately give them credit. How can you not when you have developing Lafreniere, Hedel, and Kakko? Fourth line has just been makeshift for, I feel like, the last 10 years. Would you agree with that in particular, that small?
Yes, I would.
Thing? Yeah. Trouba, in my opinion, looked his best the first season under Quinn as a Ranger. I think he's looked like pretty terrible this year, to be honest with you. Miller, he's kind of stagnated this year compared to last year. Lindgren and Fox, in my opinion, haven't had the same impact since their rookie season together. Igor is Igor. Igor's Igor. He's literally the heart and soul of this team. Backup goalie, this is our worst backup goalie we've had probably since before I started watching the Rangers. And
Andre Pavlich was better than Halak.
Yes, he was. Andre Pavlich was legitimately, he wasn't bad as a Ranger. He was a decent backup.
He had like a 9-10 save percentage. Something.
He was not a bad backup. I thought he should have gotten a little bit more credit than he deserved. But look who he followed.
He retired, right? After
he might have
Rangers. But real quick.
And one last thing. Yeah. Our 5-on-5 play has not taken a step forward in the slightest. Like I told you, I was pissed off after I thought about this last night, and it's frustrating.
So are you sitting here on Thanksgiving Day saying that if you put this roster under David Quinn's head coaching, that they would be better than they are right now under Galant? This roster under Quinn is better than this roster under Galant.
I have to go with I have to go with no, but at the same time, I like the main point of my thing was Galan has been very underwhelming as a coach, which I hate to say, but that's been the truth of the matter so far.
And I'm glad that you said it, Shades, because you're echoing a lot of what I'm seeing too. Panarin has not looked like the same player. I 1000% agree with you on that. The fourth line is by committee. And I think there's just a lot of bad contracts on this team. I don't really care that he's the captain, to be honest. Jacob Trouba, for the way he's been playing $8 million, please, you shouldn't be making 4.5. Like seriously, for what he brings to the team. I mean, outside of those few hits and those game-changing plays in the playoffs, he has not really provided anything of substance as
And
a captain.
honestly, yeah, I agree with you. And Miller has been honestly so much better defensively than him.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he's getting dragged down.
He is getting dragged down, and yeah, Mika does not even look close to the same player. I mean, he's a power play specialist at this point, right? Isn't he? I
That's
mean,
how it feels.
and that's another thing, right? That I just want to get off my chest. I mean, can we try a different play that's not the slap shot from Mika just in the left circle on the power play? Because I think every single team is setting up for that and they know that it's coming. Maybe Fox can shoot the puck and look for a deflection from the best tipper in front of the net in the league and Chris Kreider. Maybe you can get Artemi Panarin involved a little bit more on the power play. I mean, it's just so predictable. And maybe, just maybe, if they had tried something a little different last night, they would have been tied in that game, converted on a couple other early power play chances. But I agree with you. I think Galant's been really underwhelming, and there's a reason why he's gotten ousted from the last two places that he's coached. I
Thank
mean,
you.
Florida left him in a taxi cab, right? And Vegas was just like, yeah, we're just going to hire Pete DeBoer, even though we're a Stanley Cup contender. So they got rid of him. And you got to ask yourself, why was that the case? And so it raises a couple question marks, and it makes me think, at least, are we going the Alain Vigneault route? Right, Alain Vigneault in his first couple of years, he got the Rangers to the Cup final in 2014, got into the Eastern Conference final the next year, and then suddenly we were into a rebuild. So it's just we cannot find the right head coach, and I think recycling through everybody else's trash maybe is not the right way to go. I mean, look at the Boston Bruins. I mean, they hired Jim Montgomery, who of course was in a unique situation coming off of his alcohol addiction, and getting himself back on the road to recovery. But he was a young coach. He was somebody who coached the University of Denver, had 1 year, 2 years of NHL head coaching experience with the Stars, and he has come in and taken that roster and made it into the best in the league. So, maybe don't go the old gentlemen's club, like is the way with the NHL, especially with head coaches in that carousel. And I'll be waiting on the day that Galant heads out, because I think the team, once that day happens, will be much better off for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with what you said about there being some bad contracts. I think it goes more towards it the makeup of the roster. Like this team literally needs a Joe Sakic, Matt Duchene type of trade for this roster to wake up.
They do.
Would you agree with that?
No, I would agree with that for sure. And let's just run through it. I mean, what would you change, right? I mean, are
Well,
you
you know my thoughts on Chris Kreider, so
all the fans at home? Give them
okay.
your
Yeah, I'll tell him. I'm sick and tired of him doing absolutely nothing 95% of every game, and if he's not tipping anything in, he's rarely scoring.
okay. That's a fair point. So you're not in favor of the contract, I guess you would say, the 6.5 million that he's making.
Okay, I understand why they kept him because he was one of the longest tenured players on the team. But I mean, for a first line player and a supposed captain of the team, you gotta do more shift to shift. You have to show more heart and put more effort in shift to shift. I mean,
That's fair.
yeah, I'm kind of getting sick of him at this point because like literally, if he's not scoring on the power play or if he's not deflecting things in front or to the side of the net, he's rarely using his speed to make plays. Now, don't get me wrong. I've actually think he's been doing more of that this year compared to last year. And that's not saying much because I don't think he's doing it much at all this year either. But I mean, like something's got to change. Like part of me thinks he's dragging Mika down.
He could be. And, I hope Mika doesn't come to that realization. I mean, they're the two best friends that anybody could have, right? Mika and Kreider. But yeah, I mean, hey, how can you complain though when he puts up 51 goals? You know,
It's
that
the only thing that kept him on the team, in my opinion.
yeah, if his
Because I think if he would have had like another 25 goal season, they would have been like, yeesh. Like, why are we paying this guy?
right, and they're not entirely sure what to do. I think that there needs to be legitimate changes, Shades. I agree with you. And again, those small little adjustments. I feel like they really, ran into lightning in a bottle when they found lightning in a bottle when they traded for Kopp and Vetrano last year at the deadline. Those were the two exact players that they needed. They didn't overpay. They didn't go to the bottom of the barrel. They got the two players that they absolutely needed, Tyler Mott too. So I think they just need to replicate that at this year's deadline. And hey, I might be crazy for saying this. I have faith in Chris Drury. I just do. His last few trades have been pretty good. Fifth round pick for Reaves. Okay, I'll take that, to be honest. And you get his cap off, get a first round pick for Niels Lundqvist. I'm okay with that too. So, I have faith that he'll make the right moves come the deadline.
Yeah, I'm praying to God that he made the right decision to trade Niels because with the way Trouba's looked this season, it's unsettling to say the least.
I agree.
Now, granted, they're two different types of players, but I mean, still. But yeah, it's just like they need to make a move. And my only concern about like trading for Patrick Kane is that's one hole filled. There's multiple holes on this roster. And if they do trade for Patrick Kane, unless they're sending like Barclay Goodrow back the other way, that's the only move they're going to be able to make. And they most likely won't be able to address the defense if they make that move, which is something that you and I both agree with that they need to address as well.
I would even go as far to say that maybe Drury should try to fix them both in one trade. How about a Chikrin and Barrett Hayton package? I'll take them.
What would we have to give up for that, though? That's the only question.
Hayton's reaching bust territory. They're really getting to that point where they're just like, all right, we drafted this guy number 4 overall. I believe he was drafted in 2017. I could be wrong on that. But Hayton's a real tough physical player who had a good year in the AHL. Just hasn't been able to put it together on the NHL level. I just think getting a young guy in there, someone who can complement your bottom 6 while also getting the best defenseman on the market. If you're going to pay a lot for Chikrin, get somebody else too. Get yourself a Hayton, get yourself a Lawson Krause, get yourself somebody. That's kind of where I'm at.
It was 2018.
2018.
Number 5.
Number 5 in 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
I'm not going to hold anything against Hayton in general because I just think that the Coyotes under John Chayka were one of the worst drafting teams in the league.
He had 24 points in 60 games last year with the Coyotes, and that's given all the chances in the world. 10 points in 26 AHL games in 2020.
No bueno. No bueno.
Maybe a Lawson Krause, just somebody,
Yeah, no.
You just need an injection of life. But my point is, try to get your defenseman, try to get your forward in the same trade. Maybe a Yoki Haru and Patrick Kane combination, something like that. Like there's options. So we'll see.
Yeah, but you and I definitely in agreement that this team does need to make a major change because what they have now just simply is not working. And it's also unfortunately proving that last season was a fluke.
I wouldn't say last year was a fluke. I would.
Here's why I say that because
That's just it.
Yeah, here's also why I say that. It's because like this season specifically is also showing that the foundation of the team is flawed.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. The captain is flawed. Their main contracts are flawed. Kreider's contract is flawed. Trouba's contract is flawed. You know,
Panarin's contract at the moment looks flawed.
It is, I wouldn't go as far to say Mika's is flawed as of yet, but 8.5 million for not providing any 5-on-5 production. I don't want to be the one to say it. Vincent Trocheck, you kind of expect him, to kind of expect somebody when they're on a line with Artemi Panarin to kind of find that instant chemistry. Has not really happened. We talk about the prospects over and over. You have 2 contracts on the 4th line that I think at this point, maybe the Rangers would like to get rid of, and Sammy Blais and Ryan Carpenter, especially when you look at, kind of how they're going to have to maneuver around the cap, especially come the trade deadline. So, and also, I think it can't get lost on the fact that, as much shit as he got during his tenure as a Ranger, Alexander Georgiev was a really good backup goaltender. And he was a big reason why we won some games that we shouldn't have last year. And I think, having such a significant downgrade from Georgiev to Halak, that makes a big difference too. So it's just all those things that we've talked about this entire episode, Shades, coming together as to why this team is mired in being consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, I think a major reason why they were able to sustain success last year is because all of those problems showed themselves one by one, and it felt like they were all one at a time. This season, it literally, like you said, everything at once.
Right, everything is coming down at once for sure. Injuries too. We haven't been hammered too much by the injury bug. And also, my last point on the Rangers, I just want to say, I'm glad somebody finally said it, and I'm glad it was you, Shades. Fox and Lindgren, they just
What
don't
happened?
they just don't look the same. I just, Fox is Fox. Fox has the best IQ of any player in the any defenseman in the NHL, in my opinion. He may not have the skating ability of a Cale Makar to be able to deke and score fancy goals like Cale Makar can, but he is just such a smart hockey player. But that pairing, something's just not working for me. I mean, what are you seeing out of them? I mean, they just don't look like a true number one pairing that a Stanley Cup contender needs. They just don't.
They don't look the same.
Yeah.
Their rookie seasons together. I mean, they look great, and it
Yeah.
just hasn't been the same since. And again, we go back to the coaching change. Could that have something to do with it?
I'd be very interested to see how the locker room, is feeling about Galant, and now that there's no Reaves anymore, and just a little bit of that locker room camaraderie just comes down a little bit, and team morale maybe is a little bit low, handing Anaheim their first regulation win. When does that frustration begins to boil a little bit, and maybe I don't want to suggest coaching change, but you know, I predicted year 3 of this 4-year contract is when Galant would be ousted, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's earlier. I mean, I wouldn't say Stanley Cup or bust for the Rangers this year, but you want to see improvement. And the fact of the matter is, when you bowed out was in the Eastern Conference Final, and if you're going to improve, there's only one more place to go. And if Galant can't take you there, then Drury needs to realize that.
Yeah, the only all right, now for the last thing. I mean, everybody's making a big thing about Trotz, but we all know as soon as you hire Trotz, offense is probably gonna go down, which is exactly what this team does not need.
Yeah, you think offense is dried up now? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's our discussion on the Rangers and hockey for this episode. So, story time.
Let's hear it. I'm excited. I've been
All
waiting.
right, so Saturday night, AEW Full Gear out in Newark. It was actually really easy to get there by the PATH train. If you ever need to go, it's actually very easy to get there.
Okay.
So the show goes on. It was a very good show. I enjoyed, did a lot of yelling. I was sitting next to 2 girls, both named Rachel, ironically, who are also huge wrestling fans. So I thought that was funny in its own right, but that's not even part of the story. So there's these 2 guys sitting in the row in front of me, 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 seats to the right. And they've been drinking. One is very coherent, and then the other one, before the show was even over, you could tell was just gone, because he was just starting to yell shit where I'm like, all right, this guy needs to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
So the show ends. We all have a good time walking up to the concourse. I get on the bathroom line. Lo and behold, the 2 guys that I tried to make conversation with, because he said something and then I commented on it. of course, those have to be the two guys that are sitting in the row. And I'm just like, okay, the one guy's coherent. Good. The other one, gone. Totally gone. I'm talking about barely standing, stumbling around, like getting lost easily, going up to random people saying random shit, almost falling down like every 10 seconds. Like it was pretty bad. So, for whatever reason, we got to talking, me and the coherent guy, and they were both going back to Penn Station. And I'm just like, you know what? I've never taken, like, this is my first time coming here. I've never taken the train back. So I made the conscious decision to go with both of these guys.
Okay, good
And
man. Good man.
yeah, so immediately, like, we get out of the bathroom to leave. Immediately, the drunk friend gets lost and he has to go find him. And I'm just like, oh my God. So if this wasn't like fucked from the very beginning, I don't know if I just don't know. So he finds him, the coherent friend. We walk out. We got to walk back to the train station. The drunk friend is like going in the street, stumbling around, gets lost again on the way to the train, and he is eventually found again. And of course, like the way that we came out of the train station to go there, that door is locked. So we got to go all the way around.
Oh my goodness.
And we get like into the station, initially go to the wrong track. And we realized that we were in the wrong spot. So we pivoted and went back the right way. I ended up paying like $2 for a New Jersey light rail ticket. I don't know. It was like I was very tired and I was actually stone sober. So that one's on me. But I ended up at $2 is $2, whatever. But we go halfway down the stairs to the wrong track before we realize I don't know how this guy didn't fall down the stairs. So so then we go and make our way to the right track, which was like all the way on the other side of the station, almost literally. So we get to that platform. The drunk friend is like stumbling near the tracks. The coherent friend literally needs to get him and like puts him near the wall. And then while he's on the wall, he does like that sit standing thing.
Mhm.
So like at that point he's good. So then me and the coherent friend, we start getting into a conversation with two other guys on the train platform. All five of us just happen to be New York Jets fans. So we get into a conversation about the Jets, about the game against the Patriots the following morning. Ugh, I'm still pissed about that game. So then we're having a nice conversation, the four of us. Then the drunk friend stumbles, knocks over the large iced coffee one of the two guys we're talking to has. And it was just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So that happened. And then there's coffee. There's like a puddle of coffee, a pool of coffee. It's like it was just like, what the hell? So the train comes like 2, 3 minutes after that. We get on, those two guys split from us, probably because of the coffee thing.
Right. These crazy guys. Yep.
Yeah, and then we finally get the drunk friend like in the middle between the two of us, and like he's good from that point on. Okay, mostly good because he's so gone. He's just like, bro, you got like a nice set of hair, and then he like starts petting me.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, no, he was that drunk. He was that drunk. So then I'm literally talking to the other friend the whole way home about wrestling. It was actually a very nice conversation. Guy ended up being a really nice guy. So we get back to Penn Station. We get off the train. We start walking. The drunk friend realizes he left his phone on the train.
Oh my gosh.
So he literally runs back to the train. It had already left. It had already left. So
Oh
he
no.
lost his phone.
That's not fun.
Yeah. No. And he was pretty mad. He started punching the walls and shit after that. I kept my distance at that point. So, by the way, I thought this guy was going to punch me at one point while we were waiting for the train still in Jersey. Luckily, he didn't. Yeah, so he runs to the train. Phone's not like the train's gone. He comes back. I stay together with these guys for 2 minutes before we have to split paths for the night. And then I actually, after all of that, I actually had good luck with the E train. Like I had to wait for a little bit, but it was going local all the way to where I needed to take it. So I'm just like, oh, thank God. And lo and behold, I got home in one piece at like 2:30 in the morning.
You know, you're a good Samaritan, Shades. I think that's what this story shows. Even though he lost his phone, somebody that inebriated in a train station in Newark could have easily lost his life, and he didn't. And
Yeah, he's
hopefully he got
lucky his
home
friend
safe.
was with him.
Did you get the contact number of his friend? I mean, or something like that, or just to find out how he is?
No, I didn't ask for
All right.
anything. Although knowing those two, I might see them at another AEW event.
Yeah, definitely. I thought you were going a different direction when you were telling me about the Rachels, but
No,
look
although I
like
did find out that one of them has a podcast,
that's what's up.
a wrestling podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I might actually have to check that out one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was my story of getting home from New Jersey on
Sounds like
Saturday
a
night.
typical wrestling event on a Saturday night.
Yeah. And the
And
only reason I ended up taking the train back to begin with is because Ubers were like $170 straight home. And I said, no. Like
yeah,
I could have taken an Uber back from like Penn Station for like 40, but I was just like, I might as well just wait for the E train at this point.
right. Just take the subway for sure.
Yeah. So, moral of the story, you and I need to get to a wrestling event.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You say the word. I mean, it's funny. AEW came to Savannah a couple weeks before I showed up. I would have been able to go if I was here at the time, but hopefully they'll come back. And when they do, either I'll come up to New York or we'll meet somewhere in the middle or something. But I definitely need to get myself to another wrestling event. I think the last one I was at, it was the AEW Dynamite where Punk called out MJF. Um, it was in, I think it might have been in New Jersey or in Brooklyn.
Oh, so that's back in like January, February.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. So it's been a minute, but I miss it for sure. I've been to two Dynamites, and of course a lot of WWE shows. So, we'll see.
Okay, two Dynamites and now the trifecta for a pay-per-view for me.
That's what's
So
up. That's
now I
awesome.
got to get to a live Rampage, but we'll see about that.
Well, isn't Rampage and Dynamite, aren't they?
Most of the
That's
time they're taped the same night.
okay, at the same night. For me, it's just like it becomes a lot of wrestling. I don't know about you, like 7 hours. Sometimes it gets a little bit mentally exhausting.
Oh yeah, especially pay-per-view weeks. And I love how, like, I know we're a hockey podcast, but this is story time, damn it. MJF had like the best 2 minutes of the entire media scrum afterwards, and then it was just so goddamn boring after
Yeah.
that. It was so boring. It was not brawl out.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
You're a champ though. You stayed the whole time. That's good.
Oh, I had to. You kidding me? Dude, it
Yeah.
was the first pay-per-view in the area, and I was planning to go to the original Blood and Guts, but the pandemic. So I
Oh,
had
the
to get
one
to
in
this show.
February? I had
Yeah,
tickets
the
to
the
that
one that
too.
was supposed to be in March
Yeah.
of 2020.
I had tickets to that. Man.
Stupid pandemic ruined everything.
That was oh my gosh. Oh my God, don't tell me. I know who was fighting in that. It was Jericho's group, right? What were they called again?
Inner Circle.
Inner Circle against the Elite, right?
Good. Oh, that was going to be such a good match
It was
too.
going to
But
be such a good match. There was going to be so much blood.
I will admit though, what we got was entertaining as all hell.
What did you guys end up getting? It was
Stadium Stampede.
Stadium Stampede.
Dude, so much fun.
I
So
remember
much
that.
fun.
Was that when didn't something happen to Matt Hardy in that match? Like or
Uh
didn't he do something? Or like wasn't there some like a little bit of an incident between
oh no, him and Guevara.
him and Sammy?
Yeah,
Right.
different
Yeah.
pay-per-view.
Different pay-per-view. Oh. See, it's all getting jumbled up together.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, I know the feeling. I can't remember what happened the week freaking before on one of the only shows I watched. That's how bad my memory's getting. And I'm only 26.
I hate being old.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
crazy.
all right. Well, I think that's just about it. We've touched about everything we wanted to touch on, and you heard a good story. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for listening. This has been Pucks and Brews. And as always, I forget to look up the damn episode number because I guess that's just becoming my thing now. This has been episode number 27. Good number. Good number. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Follow us on all of our socials listed in the description below. As you can tell, it's been a while since I've done this. Liam, thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And yeah, let's hope the Rangers get their shit together.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Only time will tell.
Yeah. And let's enjoy some hockey in the meantime.
For
I
sure.
need coffee. And oh, by the way, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, Liam.
Thank you. You too.
Let's feast.
Let's feast.
Good.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to end it.